Hello, I'm attorney Paul Whalen from Afford Law. At Afford Law, we practice criminal and family law throughout Massachusetts. Our fees are drastically reduced from what most firms charge. We charge our fees based on your income, so the less you make, the less you have to pay. Today, we're going to be discussing supervised visitation in a divorce or paternity action in Massachusetts. What is supervised visitation? Visitation, also now called parenting time, is time that you can spend with your child. Supervised visitation comes up in the context where one parent is accused or has a history of certain behavior. Typically, it's child abuse, neglect, significant substance abuse, domestic abuse. It could be any number of things, but it's really something that's very concerning to the court. So that person is not allowed to visit with his or her child alone because the child's safety cannot be guaranteed. So what happens is someone, either the court or your ex, will ask the court if they're going to allow visitation at all. They are requesting that it be supervised visitation. And supervised visitation is basically where a third party is present with you while you're spending time with your child. It could be a person that you know that is a relative or a friend that's acceptable to your ex and to the court, or it could be a facility itself or a social worker or something along those lines. So there are certain guidelines that the court looks to when determining if supervised visitation is something that's going to happen, and if so, what are the parameters or what are the ground rules for picking the supervisor and the circumstances themselves. So among those guidelines are they look to see what the risks of the parent-child contact are to family members. So they're really looking, of course, they're looking out for the safety of your child. They don't want the child to be in danger. Courts typically want to have both parents involved in your child's life because that's better for the child, unless there are certain reasons why it wouldn't be better for the child. Things such as the safety of the child being at risk. So that's the whole reason behind supervised visitations. Another part of the guideline is it's the protection provided by a supervised visitation service. So as I said, it could be a particular service that's provided by institutions, certain organizations in the Commonwealth that are approved by the court, the family and probate and family court. It could be at that facility as well. It could be supervised by those folks either at the facility or out in public somewhere. But it's somebody that is basically it's their job to provide such supervision for you and your child. And they look at the qualifications of the supervisor, the proposed supervisor, and their ability to provide that supervision under certain circumstances. So it can be, as I say, someone who is known to you. As I say, it could be a relative, a parent, a friend, a sibling, something along those lines. It can't be just anybody. It has to be approved. That person has to undergo some sort of rigorous intake and background checks and so forth. Again, because the paramount interest is the safety of safety of your child. So, if supervised visitation is ordered for you, then you must follow the visitation guidelines and their requirements. If you don't follow their requirements, so if, for instance, you're supposed to have supervised visitation and you take the child out on your own, or take them to some facility where they're not being supervised, that could be a violation. Certainly, is a violation of the ground rules and the guidelines that the court has set for you. And if you are in violation of any of those guidelines or restrictions, you can be punished. You can have certain consequences befall you. Among those violations, typically those consequences for violation, the other person can petition the enforcement of the order. So let's say that it's early on in the visitation schedule of supervised visitation, and there's some sort of small infraction where you take the child out for a small bit of time, or the supervisor is not immediately present. your ex can go to the court and bring that to the court's attention and ask the court to force you to be in compliance with the court's order. That's sort of the first step, if you will, for a minor violation. Violating parents need to appear. You'd have to appear before the court and explain to the court what the situation was, why the violation had happened, if it did, and explain to the court how it won't happen again if you're allowed to continue in your visitations, supervised or otherwise. The court can find you in contempt of court for that, and basically that means that it could lead to any number of things. It could lead the worst of all, it could lead to jail time if you're in contempt of court. It could also lead to certain things where supervised visitation could be taken away altogether, and that you're not able to see the child under any circumstances. And also, the violating parent, that would be you, could lose custody or visitation of your child if there are violations. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. If you want to stop having the supervised portion of the visitation, let's say things are going along well for a period of time, you can petition the court to remove the supervised portion of the visitation. You'd have to file a petition to modify that visitation order. There has to be a significant change in circumstances in order for the court to even entertain modifying that order. Substantial changes in circumstances could be if you've completed some kind of program, if you are now, if there was a drug or alcohol problem, that you are clean and sober for a period of time, you're in a program, you're doing well, things along those lines. Those can be grounds to ask the court to remove the supervised portion of the visitation order. Remaining drug-free is another one, as I say. So with supervised visitation, we've had many clients that have had supervised visitation, and it's not great, to tell you the truth. People want to spend time with the children. They don't want to have somebody else around. They're imposing on family members, perhaps, for their visits, or they have to go to basically to strangers to have strangers around them when they're visiting with their child. And nobody really wants that. However, if that's all that's offered to you, you should take that opportunity, because you can't change it if you prove yourself, that you prove to the court that you're not a threat, that you can take care of your child, and that everything will go fine. So even though it may look and feel like you're being put upon, that people don't trust you, take the opportunity to take the supervised visitation, prove yourself, improve your life if you're having difficulties in your life, and then bring it back before the court and ask the court to re-examine why it was that supervised visitation was ordered in the first place. So, as I say, it's not a perfect situation for you if you're being supervised. I understand, but it's better than nothing, and it can improve. It can be a way into your child's life to spend more time with your child, to develop a bond over time. So that's certainly well worth any inconvenience it causes you. As I say, at Afford Law, we practice criminal and family law. Visitation is a portion of family law. We do everything based on our client's income. So all of our fees are on a sliding scale based on your income. So the less you make, the less you'll have to pay. We're trying to provide legal services to the hardworking men and women of Massachusetts, basically to give them a break. So if you have any questions about criminal or family law, please feel free to visit us at affordlaw.org. Book yourself a free virtual appointment. I'd be happy to answer any specific questions that you have about your case, about your situation. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to book that appointment, totally free, no obligation, and from the comfort of your own and privacy of your own home. At Afford Law, we're making justice affordable.